Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Mohammed Mo.booktalker back again with another video. So, guys, basically, this thing keeps moving. So, I just want to talk about a topic today of why you shouldn't always look to the hype around booktubers recommending books to you and stuff like that, whether it's the sci-fi genre, whether it's a nonfiction genre. And I'll break it down some of the reasons why you shouldn't listen to these booktubers. And I'm just going to break it down why you shouldn't listen to them. So the first reason is just because a booktuber recommends a book to you doesn't mean you have to read it. Like, for example, for the past 2 years, a lot of people were into the sci-fi genre, mostly heavily in the sci-fi genre. A lot of people were reading about the Red Rising and Brandon Sanderson's books, and the trilogies and all that stuff. But you got to keep in mind, you have to, like, these overhyped books. Let's say if you do read them, sometimes you will get disappointed. You have to understand, everybody has different opinions. Everybody has different taste when it comes to each book. So you got to pick the genre that fits right for you, okay? For example, I like thrillers. For some reason, I'm not going to always pick the overhyped thriller books out there, Sometimes I might want to go for an indie thriller or anything underrated that nobody's really talking about. So, number one, keep in mind that number one reason is you just don't always listen to the hype, because these booktubers, they're just basically stating their opinion, okay? It doesn't mean that they're right and it doesn't mean that they're wrong, but you gotta make sure that these overhyped books don't get caught up in all the popularity these days. And that is the main issue with booktube now, with overhyped books. The second reason is, and it goes back to my first point. Why don't you stick to that genre and pick underrated books that are not really talked about, or look or search for an indie author, and read those books? Why do we always have to consider picking popular fiction books these days? I just don't get the hype of that. So you don't always have to look at the overhyped books. Just a second reason is to look for a different angle in picking, like, underrated authors or indie authors, okay, or any, like, a classic, okay. You don't always have to go into a deep dive about the hype these days, okay. The main issue that we have is you have people that are giving you book recommendations, and a lot of people, let's say they just get the book and then they read it, whether it's an overhyped book, and then they get disappointed because some booktuber decided to give them that recommendation. Guys, that person is stating their opinion. They're not going to be right and they're not going to be wrong, but they're just stating their opinion, and it's not factual at the end of the day. These booktubers, they're just stating their opinion. It doesn't really mean nothing. And this is no disrespect to them. A lot of them are great with their book reviews, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you don't always have to listen to the overhype books these days. Try to go outside of the box. Why don't you look at thrillers or a fantasy that is not really talked about, and maybe you could make a video and talk about this may not be an overhyped book, but this is something that you should consider. And the difference is, the book that you may recommend, it may be not an overhyped popular book, but maybe it's something to consider. I think we need to encourage more genres that are underrated, and the reason saying that is because a lot of indie authors don't get the hype these days. These major these major authors that the booktubes are reading, a lot of them are with a publishing company, and I think that's why they're overrated. And another reason is they're always on the New York Times best-selling list. Now, my third reason is You know, just because they're on the New York Times best-selling list doesn't mean it's a great overhyped book, okay? Just because something is on the New York Times best-selling list doesn't mean it's a great book. You got to keep that in mind as well, okay? Everybody has different opinions, okay? Whether it's reading a sports fiction, whether it's, you know, reading a mystery or thriller, you know, just because it's on the New York Best Time Sellers list doesn't mean it's a great, it doesn't really mean it's a great book, you know. Everybody has different opinions. Everybody varies from book to book, okay? And at the end of the day, I encourage you guys to really read more indie books, okay? Independent authors, okay? Self-published authors, okay? That's where you guys should read more and try to read more of those books instead of always going for the popular overhyped books. So keep that in mind as well, guys, okay? I know we live in a time that everybody wants to read the popular book, and I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, just don't always listen to the hype that's around, okay? Just because a book is overhyped doesn't mean it's always a great book. So you got to keep that in mind as well, okay? It varies from person to person. So guys, that's it for me today. I hope this message gave you something to think about, okay? And please let me know, share your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy reading. Peace out.